So welcome to this new section here. In this section, we'll continue in our journey learning Swift. In the previous section, we talked about logical operators, we talked about comparison operators, and so forth. Now, in this section, we'll start talking about data structure, how to structure data, how to structure variables, and how to use certain tools that already come with Swift. First data structure we're going to look at is arrays. So think of an array as a table such as this one here. Think of an array as a table where we can put data, we can put strings, we can put numbers, but this data is organized by index. As you can see here, our index starts with 0. So in programming languages, indexes usually starts at 0. So index 0 in this case, we have value mangoes. Index 1, we have cows. Index 2, we have oranges. 3, lemons. So that's how an array is structured internally. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look in code and how to create our arrays. All right, let's get to it. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and open Xcode. Go to say File, New, Playground Project. We're going to call this Intro Arrays. Okay, and say Next. All right, so there we go. And we have our project. All right, great. So let's get rid of this here. We don't need that. So arrays. So let's put a comment here, array. All right, so how do we create arrays? Well, simply we can say var. I'm going to name it my array. And this, then I'm going to set it to say equals to. So open square brackets here and close. So this here, when we put square brackets, this is how we can tell we are talking about an array. Okay, so these square brackets here, inside this square brackets, that's where we are going to put our elements, our values. In this case, we can go ahead and put numbers. So say 12, and all of them are separated by comma. So 12, we can put 11, 56, and 10. All right, so as you can see here, we have all of those values inside of our array. Also, we could have done this. We could have said my array, and then colon, open square brackets and close. And inside here, we put the type of values we want this array to hold. In this case, if we wanted to say integer, so we would have said int, and then we would have said equal, and then we would go ahead and say 1, 5, 6, etc. Just like that. So let's go ahead and comment this out here to see if these actually work. And as you can see, this works. All right, so these are two different ways in which we can initialize our arrays. So this is very explicit. So we are saying here my array is of type, so that's what this colon means, integers. And notice it's the int is inside of square brackets, because that's what tells the system that we are talking about arrays. And of course, we then assign this to all of these values. All right, so that's another way of initializing arrays. Perfect. So now we have this array of integers here. Now let's go ahead and say print, and let's print my array. Let's see what's going to happen. And there it is. As you can see, it's printing my array. So when I introduced arrays, I said that all values inside of an array can be accessed via index, because as you can see here, this is spot 1, index 0, right? Because all of the indexes start at 0, not at 1. So this will be spot 0, spot 1, spot 2, spot 3. The length of an array is essentially how many spots this array has. In this case, it has 4. We can find out the length of an array, or the count of an array, how many items inside of that array, by saying my array and then say dot count, just like that. And you see here it says 4. Access the count attribute. So it's telling us what is the count, what is the length of this array, which is 4. Okay, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Not to be confused with index. Index here will be 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so index and count are two different things. Count is just the length of the array. It's just how many items are inside of our array. When you count the indexes, you always start at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's say if we wanted to retrieve number 11, what would we do? To get number 11 in our array here, we'll say print, and we'll say my array, because we are accessing, this is the array here. We'll go ahead and put square brackets here, and then inside here we would put the index number. So we know that 11 is the second here, so we know also that we always start at 0, so it would be 0 and 1. So if you put here 1, then we should get 11, and there it is, 11 indeed. Another challenge, what if I wanted the fourth item here from our array? What number would I put here? All right, if you say 3, you are absolutely right. So there we go, 3, 10, and which is the fourth number here. Perfect. Now, similarly, as we here, this is a integers, right? We could also create my string array. In this case, we're going to put there square brackets and close them. And inside here, we're going to start putting strings. We can say apple and then comma. And another item would be mango, comma, grapes. As you can see here, all is there. Let's print that out. Let's go here and say print. And we're going to print my string array. And there it is. Just hit enter. And there we go. Apple, mango, grapes. Same thing here. If we wanted to know what's the length or what's the count of our array, we're going to go ahead and say print and say my string dot count. Okay, and it says there 3. Now, if we wanted to say create a string here that says my array count is, as you know now, you can go ahead and say backslash, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, like that. And now we should get my array count is 3. Notice, remember, this notation is very important because this is a string here, and we want to access this variable, which is my string array here at the top. All right, so we got the count. Perfect. Great. The same way we were able to fetch a certain index value here, we can do the same with our string. Nothing is different here. So we can say, for instance, if I want my string, I want to get grapes, I would say my string, and of course I'm going to have here the square brackets because I want to access a certain index. If I want grapes, that would be 2, right? It should say here grapes. Perfect. We can also append, which means we can also add items into our array. So for instance, let's keep going with our my string array here. We can say here append or just add to existing array. Now to do that, we simply say, again, we're going to go ahead and say my string array dot append. As you can see, there is that method there, that function. So say append, just click enter. And inside here, we can just add whatever we want to add to this list here, to this array, right? Let's say we want to add bread. You notice right away, apple, mango, grapes, bread. So bread is now added into our my string array. And we can see that by, if we wanted to verify that, we can say print and say my string array again. And we should see here, it says apple, mango, grapes, and bread. Obviously, we can do the same, the my array number here. So we can go ahead and say my array dot append, and we can say 7, for instance. And right away, you'll see here, it says 12, 11, 56 here to the right, 10, 7. If we want to see what's the count now, we can say my array dot count. It should give us, all right, because now after adding 7, we'll have 1, 12, 2, 3, 4, and the 7, which is 5. There's another way to add an item into our array, which is a little bit strange in syntax, but what you can do also, you can say, for instance, plus equal square brackets there and say, sorry, it's a string, say hello. There we go. As you can see here, let's hover over and click. So it says 5 elements, so you really can't see. Let's go ahead, make this a little bit bigger so we can actually see everything. As you can see here to the right, I say apple, mango, grapes, bread, hello. So this is another way of adding an item to an array. So the syntax here, which can be a little bit strange to the eye, is we added a plus equal. We'll see this syntax as we progress in our course, but this is essentially saying we are adding this item into our myString array. Now notice the difference here. When we use append, we're just passing in right away a string, whatever we want to append, depending on what kind of array we are talking about, right? But here, it's a little bit different. We're actually having this square brackets here. Obviously, we could have done the same to our int array. So we can go ahead and say my array and say plus equal, open square brackets, close that, and then just put, say, 67. And we can see here, we have 12, 11, 56, 10, 67, right? Because we are adding to our my array here. Now, what if we wanted to add, say, give space here, item to a certain index? All right, so this video is running a little bit too long, so we're gonna stop here and we'll proceed on the next video. I'll see you in a bit.